Hi, second graders. Good morning, and welcome to Reader's Workshop today. We're going to continue our work with strategies on how to read nonfiction texts. So if you recall, I've been using this book, The Changing Earth, to help us learn about the strategies for reading. So I'm going to review the strategies that we've done so far because in independent reading time, you're going to follow those steps with a new book. So you're going to think about, at first, how do you take a sneak peek? We talked about checking out the cover, looking at the photograph, the title, turning that title into a question and saying, well, if my title says The Changing Earth, what changes the earth? Reading the blurb on the back, if there is one, and checking out any images that might be on the back. We added 2 new parts, and one of those is to make sure you're reading the glossary section so that you can read the keywords and make sure you know what words are going to be in that text. So in this book, I know that I'm going to be reading words like ash, crust. That is now the surface of the earth, not pizza crust. Erupts, highlands. We know highlands are now part of an area that's higher than the areas around it. Lava, magma, molten, plates, not dinner plates, but large pieces of the top layer of earth, and volcanoes. So those are the keywords in this book that I need to make sure by the end of my reading that I should be able to use when I'm talking about it. And second graders, I've used this book for every lesson, and we haven't even started reading it yet. But we already know a lot about it from all of our sneak peek and really good focus on those strategies of slowing down and checking out all pieces before we read. We've looked at the table of contents, and we noticed that word highlands is in every single one of those headings. And one of the things I want to go back and talk about today is how you study each page. We practiced that one day, but I feel like what we need is to really think about what does that mean to study each page. So you can see on my screen right now, and perhaps you can see it better if I make it bigger. I would like you today to practice surveying the text. And when you survey something, you get some information, you collect data. And what I want you to collect is what pops out at you on those pages. So when you're studying them, what do you want to make sure you pay attention to? Because please remember, it is not okay when you are reading nonfiction to just open up the book and start reading the words. You must pay attention to all of the features on the page to get the most information. So definitely pay attention to those key details. But you also need to pay attention to things like the caption. So on this page, if I survey it, what pops out right to me is this really long river and the caption that goes with it that tells me Oroki is the tallest mountain in New Zealand. And then when I read that caption, I realize it's not talking about that river at all. It's talking about this picture right here, and you can see that word with a label, Oroki. So now on this page I've studied, what popped out at me was the caption. But when I read the caption, I needed to read more, look at that page more closely, find the label, and really zoom in on the photograph. As I look through and study other pages in this book and I survey what pops out at me, on this page, what pops out at me is the diagram and how I have to use the labels under the diagram to really focus above and the information below to know what this diagram is trying to teach me about how plates can form a mountain. On this page, we looked at what popped out at me was that really high popping lava. So I definitely want to make sure I read that page to find out what happens when all that lava comes down the mountain. When I studied this page, I found another diagram with more arrows and labels. So really showing me how this volcano forms a mountain. So this is different because the last one was talking about how plates form a mountain, but this diagram is talking about a volcano. Ooh, I love reading maps, and that's what pops out at me on this page. So I am wondering, when I look at this map, I have to figure out, what are all those red dots on that map? And when I read the map key, they're actually little triangles. That's where there's volcanoes. And that area where you find those volcanoes, all those different volcanoes in our world, is called the Ring of Fire. That's pretty cool. I noticed there's not too many over by North America where we live. So that makes sense, because I didn't really think there were a lot of volcanoes around us. And then, of course, yesterday on our Google Meet, we studied this photograph here, and what popped out at me was how it looked like a really strange photograph, and we had so many questions that came up about it. So second graders, that's really what you need to do. When you study each page, your job is to figure out what is popping out on the page and what information can you get by studying those pieces before you even read the key details. Then, once you have figured out what pops out at you and what those text features are on the pages, that's when you can go back and start gathering the key details and putting all that information together. So really study those pages carefully today. Before you read any key details, figure out what's popping out at you, and then go on to read to learn. Have a great day in reading. I know you'll reach our goal of 30 minutes today. Stay focused, read the whole time, and remember, we're reading nonfiction texts. See you tomorrow.